Hey guys, I'm Rick here with episode 9 of Cage Side Convos.
And I'm Quince. What's good, fellas? And ladies. Thanks for joining us again this morning. We've actually got our very first local guest, a very recognizable face, Mr. Jason Price. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, taking the time out of your very, very busy day. I thought that just popped up. Does that mean anything?
No, that's fine. Don't worry about that.
Okay. Don't worry. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. So,
might have to cut this one short.
We got plenty of time.
and it's over. But actually, I thought Jason would be a very good fit for the combos that we have in here. He's a guy that wears many hats throughout the community here. He's the general manager of Maggie's on the River. He's also one half of the mind behind Brew York, which is a festival held right over at Maggie's the last 4 years, I think.
Yeah.
And it seems to have gotten bigger and bigger every year so far. So I guess if you just want to introduce yourself just a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, it's, born and raised here. I've moved around a little bit. I've always been in the restaurant industry since, I was 14 years old. Hospitality, just always drawn to it. My family was into it. So, I mean, that was kind of my path. It's something that I excelled in, and I took it to it. I went to college for it. I went to CIA, graduated from there, came back home. I've got 2 children up here, so this is where, I'm here for a while. So I've laid my roots, and working at Maggie's, going on 10 years. I opened it up with them 10 years ago. Started off, front of the house manager, kitchen manager, kind of wore everything. I left for about 3 years. Went and ran another restaurant here in town, corporate. Not to knock corporate, but it's not my thing. I was hating life for a little while, and I got the call back about 6 years ago from Maggie's, and came back to be GM and run that. Since then, I mean, it's been fun. I mean, it's had its ups and downs. It's definitely tried me to my core, but it's
But you're better for it, right?
Some would say. Moments. I'm better for it.
Just the huge difference from Maggie's, where Maggie's was when I first moved here to where it is now. And I've seen it grow exponentially. Certainly turned out to be one of my favorite spots, whether it's, location or whether it's the people that you kind of seek out to help you, guys build that place.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've always kind of focused on family atmosphere, whether it be, welcoming families or making you feel like family while you're there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our employees have always kind of, we've always just kind of heard that. That's made me feel like home. And being such a transient town, with Fort Drum, it really helps in that part. I mean, you don't know how many compliments you get. This makes me feel like home again.
Sure. Awesome.
And being in such a small city, and
awesome.
It's worked out in our favor. I mean, in the past 6 years, we've grown over 200% in sales.
Awesome.
So I mean, it's been huge.
Yeah.
We try to reinvent ourselves, as much as we can, and stay up with the times.
I like the comparison from a corporate spot to kind of a family-owned business, because it gives you guys a lot of flexibility and allows you to be you and add to the scenery or to the environment as you will. And I think that's kind of how we met.
Right.
We were invited to come and play back as just a 2-man band when OCL first got together.
Yeah.
Invited to come and play. I think it was just an open jam night or open mic night or something like that, and I was able to meet you and a few other people that worked there, and we got along great. And just like you said, it really made us feel like home, because both Rob and I weren't from here originally,
Right.
But just the atmosphere was so welcoming, and we had a great time. And since then we've been back again and again, and we've been part of the Brew York Fest, and we've got the car show there, which is
Since day one. Yeah,
since day one.
You started your, Father's Day car show there. That's been a huge hit for yourself and
Absolutely.
the community as well.
Absolutely. So, very grateful for that, and I just love how Maggie's is open to just new ideas and local artists and things like that. you know, and speaking of how you guys are open to that, how did Brew York come about?
You know, I'm not sure.
You're not sure?
It was just kind of me, you know, it was just me thinking of something to do, really. I mean, you know, I wanted to do something for the community. Everybody talks about, you know, when I came back, it was just kind of like, Watertown was kind of just going with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was very, it just, there wasn't anything going on. There wasn't any excitement. There wasn't any,
Out of the norm.
anything to do, you know, out of the norm.
Right.
You know, and traveling a little bit and living in different cities through college and in Florida and stuff. I mean, you see all these, like, it started off as a block party, essentially.
Right.
You know, I just wanted to do something for the community to bring us together and, you know, show that we can have some good times and you know, create a music scene.
Sure.
You know, I really wanted to use our platform as Maggie's, you know, a larger platform to bring the local music scene, you know, to light. And just give them that platform
Sure.
to showcase as well.
Sure.
You know, we get some pretty decent acts through here, but I mean, you don't see a lot of local that goes up in front of the stages that, like, you know, DPA puts on and things like that. So, you know, if we can bring some pretty decent headliners and bring people from Tri-County, Canada, you know, different cities from New York State. I mean, we bring them up from Pennsylvania now.
Right.
You know, and our artists come from as far as Seattle. So
Yep.
it's definitely grown. You know, we're definitely we're concentrating big on, you know, the beer fest side of it as well.
Sure.
You know, as you know, Maggie's is the largest, you know, tap house this side of Syracuse.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Now you know.
44 taps.
Yeah, there you go. So you guys have a good palate for
Big
beer
selection.
and local beer. You guys have a great ear for local music and up and coming music. I know who's the one band, the Brother and Sister Act from Albany.
Jocelyn and Chris.
They started with you guys in Brew Fest and have just blown up since, man.
Yeah,
It's-
this is this is their second year back. We had them last year, was the first time.
yeah.
And that's, you know, credit to my partner Pat. He's, you know, big on the music scene. He's one of those music geeks that just
Sure.
he gets off on that stuff. So
Yeah,
finding
Pat,
these
what's up,
new
man?
bands, and he's he finds them, man, and it works out. We got a great little genre, mixed genre that all kind of works together. You don't really skip a beat in it. I mean, between, like, you know, folk to hip hop to rock, but it all just kind of melts together.
Sure.
And it's been a success, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Great crowd.
and I love seeing, you know, up and coming bands starting to make it that we've had on stage and them actually wanting to come back.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, which
I think that's the kind of biggest thing, and it seems to be a recurring theme between even between like the staff that you have there, the bands that you put on, the vendors that come back to the Brewfest and stuff like that is the consistency. You know, one of the biggest things I look at when I go to a local business or any business in general, especially somewhere I frequent over a long period of time. You guys still have the same people behind the bar. You still have the same servers. You still have the same staff at Maggie's. Every year, Brewfest, like you always have OCL back. You always have local acts. You keep trying to bring new people in and expand and stuff like that and grow, but you always kind of keep true to your roots, and that's, to me, is always an indication that you're doing something right.
Right.
Like you said, that family atmosphere is people want to be
yeah,
there.
and it's definitely tough in that industry too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a high turnover rate.
Big time.
And we do, there's times that we go through some pretty decent high turnover.
Sure.
But for the most part, our core has stayed the same. I
Yeah.
mean, we got 10-year employees there still.
Yeah.
From day one, we've got
Which-
4 day ones.
Yeah, and that's like you said, it's
And
unheard
that's
of
huge.
in the food industry, in the service
We should
industry.
snap every time we hear day one.
No,
You guys are
there
already
wasn't
doing
a plug. There wasn't a plug.
But yeah, that's huge, and like I said, between business, you see consistent. Like I said, every time I go in there, I see employees I recognize, people I recognize, and people you get to be friendly with. It's nice to go into a place and have people know your name.
Yeah.
And-
No, I mean, the regulars, it's great. I mean, between the bartenders are phenomenal about remembering people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I guess I shouldn't
how
be
the
too
hell
proud
they
of
do it, to be honest
bartenders
with you.
remembering my name.
Yeah. You don't need a drink to go in there.
Sure, yeah. But no, that's huge. And then, the reason the Brewfest is growing is because, you start out, obviously, it probably was pretty tough the first year.
Oh, it definitely was. I mean,
but you build on that, and the same people come back the next year, and they tell people. Obviously, it's a networking thing, but consistency and doing something good, something that people appreciate, and then being able to grow off of that.
Yeah.
Is
And
definitely
it's
huge.
tough. It's tough at times, man. I mean, anybody that's put on a show, it's something you don't want to do it. I mean, it's tough. I mean, last year was hard on us. We went big and we fell big.
Sure.
And then this past year leading up to this year's was, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I sat down and refocused how we're gonna do it. And I said I can't go out losing.
Right.
I gotta actually redeem myself.
Sure. And I thought how you guys reshaped not only what it looked like physically, but you added more breweries there. I think the focus is more so on the local breweries, and you put the stage right front and center.
Yeah.
So I think just those little adjustments and how you guys adapted to what happened the year prior, I thought it changed the whole game.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the most fun summers I had.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we got a lot of comments from that the setup was a lot better.
Yeah.
We're really putting focus on the Brew Fest side of it. We got great, breweries in New York State.
Yeah.
We've reached out outside of New York State as well now, but, just to kind of grow upon that and bring breweries that most people wouldn't get a chance to see. But,
Right. Right.
I mean, I think we had 36 breweries this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from day one, I think we had 4.
Well, that's
I
big
got that
too.
in my
Is
head
you don't, you guys aren't necessarily self-serving. Like you're not putting on the Brewfest to grow Maggie's. You're putting on the Brewfest genuinely as a benefit, kind of to the community. And
Right.
like you said, exposing people to things that they wouldn't otherwise have access to. Especially bringing out-of-state breweries. And letting these other small businesses, because I mean they're all microbrew for the most part. I mean you guys have bigger names like Saranac was there and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but a lot of smaller businesses they're kind of getting their legs on them a little bit too. So you're giving them a platform to essentially perform on.
Yeah, a
show
lot of
people what they have.
Syracuse breweries came up big this year.
Yeah.
There's some excellent ones. Buried Acorn came up, one of my favorite ones down in
Sure.
Syracuse. We've actually got a tap takeover going on at Maggie's next week. What is it? October 9th, I believe, a Wednesday. Is it 9th?
Yeah, it'll be next week.
You'll see it. Hop on Maggie's Facebook page, but
Sure.
it's up there. 22 taps, 22 beers they're bringing up.
Yeah. Wow.
And then we're gonna do a 5-course dinner with it, limited. So
Sure.
that will be all up there.
Sure.
Tickets available soon, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely working out.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Just
man.
staying consistent with it
Yep.
and trying to figure out what
Yeah.
works and what
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely key. It takes a lot of patience too,
Yeah.
because it's not without its setbacks. Trying to go big, trying to do
No.
different. It definitely comes with its setbacks. How do you find you best deal with adversity or those setbacks? Do you have any sort of process to get through them, or do you just kind of plow through them, put your head down?
It's. I've always had a candid ability to, just to say, lack of a better word, fuck it. I don't let a lot of things bother me. I will say, last year it hit me hard. That was the first time I've probably taken a loss like that in my life.
Mm.
Whether it be financially or something I'm trying to build or do.
Right.
I've
Right.
never really failed at too much that I've done. And I'm kind of glad that it happened. No, I mean, it's,
I don't really feel my okay.
no, I mean, honestly, that, besides school and there's many things like that, relationships, and, there's plenty of things that I failed at. But as far as business wise, it's I've always been pretty good about that.
Sure.
I'm actually glad that it did happen.
Yeah.
It definitely humbled me. It made me reset and kind of focus on what I really need to focus on.
Sure.
Not let the glitz and glam get to my head.
Sure.
Well, I think that's something that you and I have talked about before, Quince, is that how you respond from failure.
Yeah.
And, like you said, does it humble you? Does it make you hungrier, or does it make you want to quit? And that you're not going to succeed if you've never experienced failure.
And honestly, and that's kind of been my whole life, really. I mean, it's just bouncing back.
Sure.
I talk about not failing, but I've definitely had my setbacks.
Yeah.
Whether it comes to the law. I had a kid at 20 years old. I had, you know, just setbacks, but I've never let it affect me. I've never let it, you know, people look down on me for it.
Right, sure.
I've just pushed ahead and
Sure.
done what I need to do.
Well, like what you said too about, you know, you're kind of glad that you failed. You're glad that it happened because it
Right.
reset you, know, and then you understand how to be grateful for that adversity. And I think honestly, that's a sign of someone who's long term is able to be successful. And like, I mean, you've been running Maggie's, like you said, for the better part of 10 years, and things are going well. So obviously you're successful. So your fortitude, your
Yeah, I mean,
resiliency.
there's definitely been some
paid off.
times that,
Sure.
you know, Maggie's has had its hardships as
Sure.
well, man. I mean, you go through them and try to battle through and figure out what works and
Right.
change it.
Right.
Yeah. With this whole balancing act of all these things you have a hand in, how do you keep it all intact? How do you stay intact? How do you stay in good health? How do you, you know, so.
Some days I don't think I do,
Sure.
but you know, I definitely use the gym as my outlet. I mean, as far as stress wise, I try to get in there, you know, 3 to 5 days a week. But some weeks I don't. You know, I mean, it's just like life. I mean, like today was a brutal workout for me. Some days are going to be hard,
Sure. Yeah.
harder than others. You know, it's just as long as you show up the next day.
Right.
You know, I mean, you just continue to show up, and it gets easier.
Right.
There's always going to be those days that are hard, but. You know,
So I know it's been a couple months. I know a couple months ago you were in training. You kind of hurt your back a little bit, and then you kind of bounced back from that, and then you ended up with a pretty serious wrist injury, right? That you were
yeah, that
had
wrist.
kind of been blown off.
No, I've been blowing it off for about 8
Sure,
months,
sure,
just
sure.
kind of gritting through it. And,
Right.
Yeah. And so
I
finally,
kind
you
of
had to-
hit my wit's end, and
Yeah.
I had to take a break.
Right.
And you know, I definitely saw my morale, you know, just my everything, my energy kind of lost a little bit. I
Sure.
mean, the gym is a big part of me. For the past 4 years, really, I've been going to the gym pretty hard.
Yeah.
Between weight training, you know, getting into these classes here just recently, but it's been a lot of lifting.
Yeah.
And you know, that's definitely an outlet for me to kind of refocus myself,
Sure.
let go of things. In the past, I remember, you know, I mean, I used to work 100 hours a week when we first opened Maggie's, and I can remember I would just, my time was, I would go home and literally stare at a wall for 20 minutes. I wouldn't be sleeping, I wouldn't, you know, nobody talking to me, I wouldn't hear anybody, you know, but it was just staring at a wall
Yeah.
and processing my day.
Sure.
And I do that a lot, you know, before bed, I always process my day.
Mhm.
You know, I try to think, what could I have done better? What could I have done more? You know, what do I got to do tomorrow? I kind of make a mental checklist. And now that, you know, my mind's slipping some days, I make a physical list of what I got to do and,
Sure.
and try to get those things done.
Adaptive.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like the stoicism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not give
Yeah,
too
we'll
much
touch on
away.
it
We're
later,
not gonna
yeah.
have nothing to talk about next week. So you say every day you go home and you process, kind of recap your day, make a list, either mental or physical,
Yeah.
right? So obviously that's a habit that served you well.
Oh, for sure.
What kind of,
I've been doing that since, you know, college really taught me that.
Sure.
As far as list, you know, we call it, you know, in the cooking industry. I've always been kind of back of the house, and you know, it's called your mise en place. Everything in its place.
Sure. Right.
And you make a list of, you know, what you got to do that day, you know, from equipment to food to what you got to prep.
Sure.
And so I've always kind of been in that habit of doing that kind of thing. But,
Yeah. What other what other kind of habits have you felt yourself develop that you think have led to, you know, kind of ultimately being able to balance everything out for yourself?
Just probably recently, in the past 3 years or so, I mean, I started reading a lot. I read a lot of, you know, financial wellness books, a lot of mind wellness books. You know, honestly, one of my favorite books is, I listen to it probably at least once a month, is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Okay.
Read that.
Yeah, and it's just kind of, it does, you know, it gives you kind of tools to put yourself at ease, not let things, you know, you hear people say that bulletproof mind,
Right.
not letting people in.
Sure,
And,
sure.
You know, really not giving a shit what people think,
Right.
as long as you're obviously on your path,
Right.
doing your thing.
Yeah.
in
So
the right
that
way.
notion of almost learning to just only respond to what you can control and kind of let the other shit roll off your shoulders and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's been a big part for me.
Sure.
Yeah, excellent. You know, and as far as just being on the path, I think just coming to terms or the realization of where you need to be or where you're best suited, you know. And,
Right.
you said you're in the food industry or in the kitchen. And, I think helps a lot. You know, that's that first big step that, you know, is needed because not everybody, because you said you grew up in a family of, were they cooks or did they own businesses or?
They were both in the hospitality
Both in
industry.
the hospitality,
You know, I think before my time, they you know, owned a diner or something, but
Right.
as far as, you know, one was out on drum, one was in the college,
Mhm.
so it's just always there, you know, and it was always growing up around it, you know, Sunday dinners at grandmother's.
Right.
It's just how it was, big Italian family on
Sure.
my mother's side.
Mhm.
Not that I got any of that Italian side.
It's really cool. You know, it's such an awesome thing to grow up in that, but to appreciate it while it's happening too,
Sure.
and know that you want to grow into that yourself and feel comfortable
Right.
with it. And it's something you desire. And so early on, you kind of, you know, probably almost define that as like your purpose is what kind of you were meant to do, and what you love to do. You're kind of
It
more
definitely
passionate.
is, you know, I mean, it's something that, you know, became me.
Sure.
And I do love it, you know.
Yeah.
I love entertaining people. I love, you know, seeing people's faces. You know, I mean,
Sure.
I love the gathering. I love the process of people going out and eating. You know, and I think it's been ruined by, you know, a lot of these chain restaurants, but
Yeah.
it's still out there that people like to go out and enjoy dinner and sit
Right.
there and
Sure.
Absolutely.
have fun for a while. You know, it's not these 15 minutes,
Right.
eat and get out.
Right,
It's,
right.
You know, enjoying the company that you're with.
Yeah,
you know,
big
If
time.
you can't do that, then
Yeah, that's I think it's a I don't want to say a commodity because I think it's really ingrained in people, you know, to sit and to enjoy food and enjoy company and stuff like that. But I think it has become a commodity, like you said, with chain restaurants or, you know, fast food and stuff where you just kind of eat quick and keep moving. Or even
Right.
at home, man, you see, you know, people sit down or on the couch and have the TV on and eat quick and not really appreciate the, you know, the time that you could actually have there, you
Yeah.
know. And so when you're able to provide a place to remind people of that camaraderie, of that togetherness, you know, and you know, eating is something obviously everybody needs to do, you know, but it can be enjoyed, and there can be more to it than just having food. you
Right.
know. So I think that's a really awesome thing to be able to provide people and to be able to kind of remind people of too. You know?
Sure. You know.
So you said you moved around a lot and everything, or maybe not a lot, but you've been to a couple different places, either college or you said you went down to Florida. So moving around, right? In that, how have you found yourself kind of redefining your purpose or wanting to come back? I guess wanting to come back to Watertown. You know, what's brought you back? How have you?
Well, mine was
found that
always,
sense of-
you know, my child, my first child.
Sure.
You know, I moved. Actually, I moved when I was 19 down to Florida. It was more of a long vacation.
Okay.
And came back for, you know, the silly girl situations. But,
Okay. None of us can relate to that.
right, yeah. You know, in college was always a thing that we were supposed to do as a family. Unfortunately, that didn't, you know, happen. But it was always a part that I was coming home. You know, it was something that I had to do for my family.
Right.
You know, and that was probably my biggest challenge was, it still is today. You know, I battle with it is if, you know, I play it safe. You know, am I doing this for my kids or am I doing it because of my kids? You know,
Right,
am I playing something safe for my kids or should I be taking risks
right.
for my kids to better my life?
Sure,
for my
sure.
kids?
That's I think
And
that's
that was
an
a big
interesting
thing
distinction
through
too.
college. You know, I mean, it was something that I had to do.
Sure.
You know, I was away. You know, I would travel back and forth on the weekends, but it's a 5-hour travel each way.
Right.
And it was something that I had to come back to.
Right.
It's something that's part of my life, and I'm not myself without my kids. So
Right.
it's,
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
you know, I've definitely changed. I can't do this because of my kids to gonna do this because of my kids.
Right. Yeah, I think that definitely, it's absolutely an interesting distinction to make. You said, am I doing it for them or am I doing it because of them, right? So more of I think the doing it for them is proactive. It's, bettering. Is it going to better their lives? Is it going to better our lives? Is it going to better our future? Is it going to bring us together? Is it going to be beneficial? Or not doing something because of, then you almost start. I think ultimately it would end up building sort of a resentment if everything was because
Right.
of them.
Well,
This is
I think it's
because
more
of
of an excuse.
Sure.
For
Yeah.
most people,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to take a risk and it's hard to take a chance sometimes
Right.
on something new that could possibly better yourself. But
Right.
and like I said, I still struggle this day. Whether time or
Right.
financial and freedom.
Mhm.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's it's kind of part of that whole balancing act.
Yeah.
How much time do you allocate to work, and obviously you care very much about your family and providing for them and stuff, so you want to make sure you're putting a concerted amount of effort into that, but it's got to be hard to understand sometimes, especially with as much as you work and as busy as you are, and then that personally you need some time, you need gym time or whatever,
Yeah.
to fit that in, and how do you allocate X amount of time to family and X amount of time to work, and how do you deal with that? Sometimes it's got to feel unbalanced. Sometimes you
Oh,
get
it definitely
frustrated.
does. I get down on myself once in a while. I'm tired. I'm tired a lot.
Right.
I have my kids half the week, and then I put in, all my work in the other half of the week,
Sure,
basically.
sure.
I have to do double time. I have to, for the most part. And I have my setbacks as well, whether I take, time off from work certain times of the year, try to get a social life. Or do I, put myself into work and that's all I do?
Right.
And I flip flop on that. I'm back on the putting myself all into work now.
Sure.
To get where I want to be.
Right.
I relaxed for a little bit, which I think it was good for me.
Yeah.
Because that's all I was doing was,
Right.
Working. I didn't have any social life. I was kids work.
Right.
In the past, couple of years, I've definitely taken some time to enjoy myself and enjoy what I've achieved.
Yes. Yeah.
But now I think it's, I've definitely set myself back in the mind frame of what's the next step?
Right.
Yeah.
Where do
right,
I go
right.
from here?
Right. Now, so even in kind of your moments of like reprieve, when you're like you said, taking time to enjoy what you've accomplished and enjoy and appreciate your success and stuff, is there still that kind of driving thought in the back of your mind, even though you're enjoying your time off and you're relaxing a little bit? Do you still have that thing in the back of your head that tells you to keep progressing?
Oh,
Yeah. So it's not like you're just saying, okay, I'm here, I'm done, check this off, and now I'm just going to chill out. It's still that.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I'm always still pushing myself forward, whether it's, internally or,
Right.
Searching, new outlets for
Right.
myself to do.
Sure.
Whether it be in the gym, as far as taking your classes,
Right.
I've never done anything like that. I was always strength training.
Sure.
And some days I hate myself for taking this class. It feels good afterwards.
I was saying, you could say something good about it.
No, I mean, honestly, it's brought me to where I don't do it as much as I want to.
Sure.
Just because between time and work and stuff. But
Right.
I try to get here at least once or twice a week.
Sure.
Yeah, we talk quite a bit about having to be goals over destination, because the success itself, I mean, you might have something that you want to accomplish through Maggie's or elsewhere or in the family, but like once you reach that, and if you stay there, it almost no longer feels like success.
Right.
And I remember talking to just a couple weeks, and sometimes I would lavish in the success or
Yeah.
get comfortable in it.
Right.
And that would kill the whole drive, the whole motivation, and I'd have to take myself out of that situation and kind of redefine what I wanted to do next. But that seems to come rather natural for you.
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, I've definitely, the last couple of years, I've definitely taken that step back and
Right.
and kind of enjoyed what I have. And, at times I worry about work, I worry about everything, and it's, and I try to hop back into it here and there, but I think I needed that break for a little bit,
Sure. Sure.
just mentally, and
And it's good that you don't beat yourself up too much, because like sometimes if I take a little bit of time off, there's part of me that's like, man, you're just being lazy, you're just finding excuses.
Yeah.
But then after I come full circle on it, I'm like, no, I needed it. Physically I needed it, or maybe mentally I needed to, you know, take that step back.
No, I definitely, you know, I beat myself up once in a while. You
Yeah,
know,
sure.
and I think that's a natural process that
Sure.
you do.
I think it's hard. What I see very consistently through the gym amongst athletes, or you know, guys like you, Quince, that are always pushing, you know, music, hustling and stuff like that. Jason, you're busy all the time, constantly work focused. Like guys that are always work focused, right? Is the difficulty in understanding when and why to take a break, to rest. You know, to rely, and understanding that rest is part of the work.
Right.
You know, so we talk about, you know, being injured, right? So you dealt with an injury, I've dealt with an injury. I know you last year, right, dealing with that hip injury and stuff too, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
even physical injuries that we've all dealt with, it's hard to take that time away from the mat,
Sure.
or from the weight room and stuff,
it is.
and to understand that, okay, if I don't do this, ultimately I'm gonna hurt myself more.
Right.
You know, and I think that's universal between whatever kind of work we're in, you know, whether it, you know, be music or, you know, the restaurant industry, understanding constantly grinding, you know, that rest period is part of the work, is part of the growth process,
Right.
you know, and being able to understand that and not constantly beat ourselves up for needing that rest time, you know, it's hard to find that medium.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
definitely a good way to look at it, though.
because it's a comparison of short-term goals that you feel like you're missing out on right now, compared
Right.
to those long-term goals that really, which are giving you that direction.
Sure.
That all those little short-term goals are you know, kind of pushing you towards. So really it's just about being able to kind of see, you know, what's the longevity, the purpose of the longevity.
Right.
And having that way more than what's going on right now.
Right.
And the fact that, you know, you got to take care of yourself, even if it seems like if it's a step back.
Right.
But yeah, it's all longevity, man. With that sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
With injuries, it's harder sometimes. You want to push through, but
Right.
Yep.
Right. Well, and then you get a day where you feel good.
yeah,
And you go and you're like, oh, I'll be good. And I've done this, I don't know how many times, like, I'll just lift light today. And
Right.
the next thing you know, you're putting PR weights on the fucking rack.
Yeah.
that was every week.
And you know, and that's how. But we were over at the Y. That's how I injured myself even further, because so I had that hip problem, and he always tries to get me to do deadlifts, and I tell him every time, this is not for me. My legs are too long. It just doesn't. I don't need it in my life, you know. But so instead of taking time off, I tried to change my lifts. I was trying to do power cleans. And with that jerk, you know,
Sure.
the pain shot right up my back, and then I was like all the way done for a couple months,
Right.
instead of just you know, resting, taking a couple weeks off.
Right.
And I paid the price for
Yeah.
a long time for
Well,
that.
that's what, you know, my wrist was 8 months, and then I had to take 4 months off.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
It was
Right.
And then the whole time kicking yourself in the ass, because if I had just taken the time off when it happened,
Right.
you know, it would have been 6 weeks and I would have been done, you know. But that's, I mean, like I said, it obviously the physical injuries are the easiest ones to understand, you know, because you can feel when you're hurt and stuff. But I think the fatigue, man, being emotionally, mentally worn out, even as far, you know, even more so sometimes than physically fatigued.
Mhm.
So, you know, you were talking about how last year you felt like you lost with the Brewfest. That didn't go well, you know, and if you had just kept, you know, grinding and wearing yourself out mentally over it, honestly, probably this year wouldn't have gone as well. You had to take that step back, breathe a little bit, let your mind rest, and then understand and appreciate, you know, what needed to be done, what needed to be changed, and reevaluate a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what it was. I mean, you know, for probably half the year afterwards, I wasn't sure if I was going to put it on.
Sure.
But, you know, reevaluating it and sitting down and actually figuring out what the hell we're going to do.
Right.
You know, I'm glad that we did it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm glad that we didn't, you know, table it and say,
Yeah.
all right, we're done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Keep
That's it.
to it.
Well, I think that's where one of the big things I like to focus on is the difference between like discipline and motivation. You know, where so probably last year when you put on like a big show, like you said, you shot big and you missed big, right? And but you're probably really pumped up, really motivated, really excited to do it. And then like you said, for 6 months after it,
for that show, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, leading up to this past year's show, I definitely wasn't excited. You know, I wasn't as excited as the
Right.
year previous.
Right.
You know,
But
because
you-
it was coming off from 2 years that were, you know, fairly successful.
sure.
You know, like, you know, we can definitely
Yeah.
We can go,
Yeah.
we can go
Yeah.
big. You know, so I mean, it was great. You know, we were on a high and then
Yeah.
a real low.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, that's what happens. You know, you're motivated, you're pumped up, you think you're gonna crush it, and then you have something bad happens and kills your motivation. You know, but I think that's where the discipline kicks in and the consistency kicks in, like you talked about, just constantly willing to work and willing to go through the hard shit and the bad time, failure and stuff like that. But being committed to not only yourself but to the business and to the community above anything else. You know, being committed and disciplined in that I'm going to make this happen again, even if I have to scale back, even if I have to, you know, take a shot in pride, you know, even if I have to admit that I was wrong before, which is huge. And then, I mean, you turn around and like Quince was saying, it was awesome last year, you know, great vibe, that you guys made a lot of big changes. So you made big changes and scaled everything down a little bit, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience up there. So ultimately, you know, being disciplined and being consistent and being willing to learn from and grow from your failures and stuff paid off, I think, big for you guys.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
sure.
Great lesson. Great lesson.
Absolutely.
No, it definitely did. And you know, like I said, I'm glad that it happened to us.
Right.
You know,
Right.
'cause
Well,
who knows what we would have done this year? We would have had, you know, someone Guns N' Roses.
Right.
I mean, it happened at a point that you guys could rebound from it. You know, you didn't get, like you said, you didn't go so crazy, you know, that you couldn't possibly recover from having a bad year, you know, and you were able to rebound and take time off and reevaluate and reestablish yourselves, and it's awesome.
And I think just over even the previous years before that, you had built such good rapport with, you know, the artists and the local businesses, and even the just the fans, the people that will come in.
Yeah.
That even when you had to make changes, you had people that were supporting those,
Right.
supporting you guys and kind of pushing you to
And that definitely
keep it going.
That definitely helped us.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if we could pay the bills on compliments, you know, we wouldn't have 3 years ago.
Just doesn't work that way.
No, unfortunately, people don't accept those as payment.
But fair enough. You know, so, you know, definitely grateful though that you use your talents and platform, you know, for, you know, giving back to the community in that way. Does it seem like a responsibility at a certain point, or is it all just joy? Is it just how you want to do it, how you want to go about it?
I think sometimes it becomes a task, but I also love what I do, you know,
Right.
and I love putting on that show, and I love, you know, I'd love to expand on that as well, you know, and putting more shows out there. You know, we're coming into figuring out what this show is,
Right.
and I think we've got it down to where we can start to expand on that as well and doing more seasonal shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it's a task. It's definitely a task at
Sure.
times.
Sure.
But if you love it, it's not work, you know.
Right.
I love how often that it feels cliche saying something like that.
Oh,
and I feel like I do it all the time. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm here. I train martial arts, and that's how I pay my bills. You know, and I rarely ever tell anybody I have a job. Like, well, you got a job? I'm like, yeah, I can afford to pay my electric bill. You know, but it's not.
Right.
It's not work. But I mean, it seems cliche and it seems cheesy, but man, it's the most genuine thing to hear from somebody, and you can
Right.
see it when somebody's doing something they're passionate about and something they love. You know, and able to make a difference. You know, so. As like I said, as cliche as we feel saying it, sometimes it is really refreshing, and it's awesome to hear more people be able to say stuff like that.
Right.
For sure. Yeah, because I think if it was just a financial thing, once you took that hit,
Yeah,
you're gone. You know, if you keep pushing, that's almost bad for business. But if it's more so for the love of what you're doing, I think that's that little extra motivator, because you can say that it's not work all you want, but you're still out there at 5 a.m. either roasting pigs or putting up tents and things like that. You know, just even behind the scenes.
It's a long day.
It's a long day. It's absolutely a long day.
absolutely. Ultimately worth it. You know.
Yeah.
For sure. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, say we wrap it up then. It doesn't tell us how long we've been going on for and rambling, but we got a couple people shouting us out. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Jason, appreciate you coming on again.
No, thanks for having me.
For the first time.
Yeah.
For the first time. In the gym again.
In the gym
For
again.
sure, yeah. Yeah.
But no, it's been
thanks for
great, man.
showing
I've been
up
keeping
to
up with you guys as, you know, podcasts and stuff.
Awesome.
It's nice. You know, I mean, I think it's great what you guys are doing, and
Appreciate it.
glad
Thank
to be
you.
a part of it.
Yeah, glad to have you. Absolutely. That's it.
Yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Catch us same time, same place.
Catch you next week.
Until then, day one.